Hey Practice Biopsy, this is D'Angelo here again. I'm bringing to you a great interview during our coronavirus shutdown time. This is Arash. He is a awesome general dentist. He owns 4 practices in Missouri, and today we're going to talk about rural dentistry and practicing dentistry in a rural area. Arash, if I'm right, you went to dental school in California. You went to University of Southern California, right?
Yes.
So how do you go from like a highly populated, super popular area like California to Missouri? Like that's the first question. How'd you end up in Missouri?
Honestly, I just followed where the money was.
Mm-hmm.
I graduated in 2005, and my mother's a dentist, and she actually has a practice in Orange County, California.
Mm-hmm.
So I came out of school with the expectation of I'm going to work with her, I'm going to get a ton of money, I'm going to do great, but the reality is in areas like Southern California and any big metropolitan area, it's so oversaturated. It didn't work out.
Mm-hmm.
My mother has 67 dental offices within 1 mile of her office, and that was 15 years ago. So, I was looking for opportunities, and I found an opportunity, and some group hired me. And I moved to Missouri, and pretty much ever since then, it's just been me here. And I've started my own practice in 2010 in a little tiny rural area for 75 grand, and that led to another one, led to another one, led to another one, and now we have to work.
So you started your practice for 75 grand. That means you're in my boat. I started mine for less than 100 also. A lot of dentists think that you have to spend like $500,000 to open a practice, but again, you're just kind of another evidence that you don't really have to. Were all 4 of your offices startups, or were any of them acquisitions?
All of them were startups.
Cool.
All of them. So the first one that I bought, obviously was already a dental practice, but the dentist hadn't worked in 5 years.
So it was built out as a dental office, but it hadn't really been used, right?
Yeah, well, he had retired.
Yeah.
It was on the market forever. Nobody wanted to buy it because it was in a rural area. But, with my experience in working in rural areas prior, I knew that it was a gold mine. So I moved on it. Banks didn't have any problem because that included the real estate too. So it was a win-win situation.
So I guess an opening question, how do you personally define rural dentistry or a rural area, or say this is a practice that would qualify as rural dentistry? Because some people, I made a post, and one of the comments that came up was, well, rural dentistry, how do we know that's necessarily different than dentistry or the dental market anywhere else? So how do you define rural dentistry as you see it?
I don't know what the textbook definition of rural is. The way I usually joke about it is if there's more cows in the area than there are people, that's pretty rural. So,
awesome.
That's kind of the take I look at, and it's not so much even an attitude or just the way that the people are. It just has to do with more of your environment. Where's the nearest shopping mall? All of the offices that I have, we have a Walmart, and that's it. That's where everyone goes. So,
Do you find it? Go ahead.
The definition of rural is up to the individual, but my one office that would be more of a city. That city has a population of about 100,000 people. The rest of them are 10,000 or less. One of them is, I think, 1,500 is the actual entire population of that entire state.
Wow. In 1,500, I'm guessing you're probably the only dentist office there. You maybe one other one.
So there's one other dentist. So this is kind of the way it works if you have like an entrepreneurial mindset, right? Because there are so few dentists, a lot of them don't take any insurance, a lot of them don't deal with any of the managed care programs or anything like that. It's literally like a cash basis only, which is great, but at the same time, just my personality, I always feel like everyone is entitled to healthcare. Like, I don't think it's just, hey, you have to be able to afford a fee-for-service price to get healthcare in an area where the average population makes $14,000 a year. I think it's impractical and almost inhumane. So, we take insurance in those areas, and we are by far the largest dental practices in those
regions where you're at.
Yep.
Do you find it challenging to find and retain staff, particularly associate dentists?
Associate dentists has been the hardest thing to find. Assistants, dental hygienists, other positions, it depends.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. But associate dentists have been extremely hard to find. As the economy has picked up and more, younger dentists would much rather live in LA or New York or bigger cities,
mm-hmm.
And I get it. But as tides go up and down, we didn't have a lot of problems finding dentists in 2010.
Right.
Right after the financial crisis. I mean, it was easy, but then as the economy picked up and other programs became available through loan forgiveness, through working for FQHCs and the whole FQHC system.
So the FQHCs maybe kind of became FQHCs maybe became competition for you in terms of at least getting staff for dentists.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, the FQHCs, I don't know how FQHCs function in larger cities, but they are popping up everywhere in rural communities.
Mm-hmm.
Every county now has one.
And they're like the way I think of them is kind of like the government's version of corporate dentistry. Would you think that?
I mean, that is a really good way of looking. I mean, it really is. It's all subsidized by the federal government. There's a nonprofit entity that owns it, and it's hard to compete with them. But we've always done really well. It has because we deal more with family dentistry. I mean, the name of my company is Access Dental and Dentures. So we obviously do a lot of removable, a lot of extractions, a lot of surgery, but we also treat children up to geriatric patients. So it's more like we try to act more like your general family dental office. So you get service and you get that feeling that you wouldn't at an FQHC.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's how we've been able to differentiate ourselves from those.
So like you're saying, you have more of like a family office as opposed to like the FQHC feel, and I think I know what you mean when you're saying that. Your practice is also called Access Dental and Dentures. With the denture stuff, are you doing basically or routinely just the basic traditional dentures? Or are you doing like implant dentures all on four? What is your high level equipment investment in these practices? Are you doing CEREC, cone beam, or just bread and butter basics?
So we have cone beams in the practices.
Mm-hmm.
We do dental implants,
mm-hmm.
more procedures like overdentures, single tooth restorations for implants. Some of my associates that have worked for me in the past wanted to do implants, some of them didn't.
Mm-hmm.
I always encourage the ones that didn't to place implants just because there's no one around us that places implants. I mean, it's kind of fun. In my office, I work at 2 offices right now. One of them I work 2 days a week. And I do more implants in that office on 2 days a week in the city of 1,500 than I do in my bigger office in a population of 100,000.
Why do you think that is?
Well, because a lot of times rural doesn't mean poor.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's one thing.
It just means isolated.
Yeah, exactly. So we have a very large contingency of farmers, right?
Mm-hmm.
So farmers, they work 7 days a week. They raise cattle. They do what they do, and the option of going an hour and a half to get a dental implant and then following up every week or every month if there's a problem to do this isn't an option for them. You know, they wanted local. So offering dental implants in some of these rural areas has been an eye-opening experience. I unfortunately don't do the all-on-4 procedures. It's not something that's that I feel comfortable with in my wheelhouse. I don't try to do things that I'm not comfortable with, but I would probably say about once a month I have a patient that comes in that office like, doc, what do I do? I want to get all this stuff fixed, and I refer them usually, I give them our treatment plan. I say, this is what we can do for you. If you want to go do something else, this is the person I would go to, and I give them a referral.
What's the specialist market like around you?
What do you mean by
do you have, like, if you say I'm going to refer you to the oral surgeon to do this or a prosthodontist for this, how far do they have to go?
Well, unless they're in the city that I'm working in, even the city that I'm in that has about 100,000 people, I believe we have 2 periodontists, a handful of oral surgeons, 2 or 3 endodontists. I mean, it is
2 or 3 endodontists for 100,000 people. That's a busy endodontist.
You will never see a poor endodontist. I mean, it's just like, it's crazy. I mean, there's such a shortage of everything, real. I mean, throughout dentistry in these areas. That's one of the reasons why I came out here. I mean, my associates that work for me, I mean, on a 25% collection, will make anywhere between $250,000 up to $350,000 a year.
Yeah, and that was, from your perspective, that wasn't going to happen in Orange County where your mom's at.
Oh no! Oh God, no! I mean, my mom loves me to death on her son, and I could only get like $400 or $500 a day out of her trying to work for her, because that's the market.
It's the market. So with your practices, you said all of them were startups. Why startups as opposed to buying one of these older guys' practices? Why startup versus just acquiring one?
It's just always ended up being easier to start it up. I mean, if you're trying to buy it in existing practice, there's all types of due diligence that you have to do. You have to make sure, okay, well, how were the patients treated? What were they treated with? Do you have,
you just get to make your own rules and go on your own timeline.
I mean, you're getting patients that are used to being treated. I mean, as a dentist, like, we treat our patients a certain way. They vibe with us, right? And if they're vibing with another guy, and then all of a sudden you come in, it's hard. I mean, my experience, I have bought a practice on my own from another dentist back when I first started. In between when I first moved to Missouri, at one point I moved back to California for like 2 years, bought a practice because I thought I knew everything I could possibly learn in 2 years of general dentistry, like so many other young dentists think. And it crashed. We had 2008 downturn in the economy, so I mean there was nothing left for me there. That's how I ended up getting back to Missouri in 2010. But that was my experience, that buying the practice already from another dentist, you're a lot better off doing it yourself. Especially if you can find a good landlord, get some good TI out of it, and go from there, you're a lot better off. But I mean, it's market driven too. I mean, I would be absolutely terrified starting my own dental practice in Orange County or LA or New York or big cities in Florida, just because there's such an oversaturation.
This is just easier.
I think that it's a ton easier. I mean, I can tell you that my dental practice My largest dental practice that I have, that's in Springfield,
Mm-hmm.
Missouri. I went. It was. I found a dead shopping center. It had nothing in there, and I went and talked to the management company that had it. And I told them, look, I have this vision. I want to open a dental office here. It's going to do great. I need 3,600 square feet. The build out's going to be $250,000 for the construction costs.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time we got done negotiating, I ended up getting 2 5-year leases, right, back to back, at $10 a square foot. That's just the market it is. And then they ate $125,000 of the build up and put the other $125,000 into my lease for 10 years at 0% interest.
So basically, you didn't pay out of pocket much of anything for your build.
I paid zero.
Yeah, and Arash, this is like, I kind of talk other dentists through this when you do your startup. There's a lot of creative ways that you can negotiate, because in dental school everything's like ABC, this is how you do it. When you're negotiating, particularly things like that, there's not strict rules. You can get creative with negotiating like you did and end up paying little or nothing for these build outs.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was great. I mean, it was, we're still finishing up that lease, but I still have not paid a single penny.
Yep.
For, it's been in my lease, but the good thing is, and this is kind of where understanding, taxes and other things come in too. If you build out dental practice, there's only so much of it you can deduct off of your taxes, your income. But if it's put into your lease payment is 100% deductible. So it all goes on. So I mean, it was just that's how I do almost all my practices now.
Yep. So you mentioned, I just want to circle back a little bit. So you bought a practice in California, 2008. That practice did not go well. You decided to pull the plug. You went this way, had much better luck.
Yep.
When you're in a practice that's not going well, what are like the red flag signs to look for, and how did you know, hey, it's time to pull the plug on this?
I mean, honestly, if you're looking at your schedule and you're just like, I don't know how I'm going to pay my assistant this week, you either have to make some big changes or you just have to just go a different route. I mean, by the time I figured out that I had to leave this dental practice in California, I had $5,000 to my name. I had a payroll coming up, and I was just like, I had 2 kids, one on the way, and I was like, this is not what I signed up for. This is not the way I can raise a family at all. So, it would have been nice to have been able to stay in Orange County, but looking back on it, I wish I would have done this.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's pretty inspiring, because I think a lot of dentists, like, if they had a practice and it didn't go well, they just pull the plug and say, you know what, I really, really wanted to be a practice owner, but it didn't work. I'm just going to go work for somebody and ride it out. But you didn't do that. You said, okay, that didn't work. I know I want to be a practice owner, so I'm just going to take this different approach now. And then here you are. So from 1 to 4, what was the timeline from like your first Missouri practice to having 4? How many years were between practice 1 and practice 4?
It actually wasn't very long. I mean, what we ended up doing is we probably had 4 practices within 3 years. So it was very quick, because like I said, back then it wasn't very hard for us to find dentists. That first dental practice that I bought, that I told you that I got for $75,000, I ended up selling it to the associate that was working there, because it just was a better fit. I mean, that was about 3 hours away from any of my other offices. It was an old lead mining town. So he wanted to buy it. He gave me 10 times what I bought it for. So I was like, all right, that's a good
win-win
return in 3 years. Yeah, in 3 years, right? So then we went up all the way up to, we bought some, we sold some. Somewhere along the way, I got divorced, so that's a different story. But after that, we still have 4 right now. Well, I feel like 4 is kind of, at least for the size that I am and like management company that I have, 4 is a pretty smooth number. It's not too hard to deal with. If I end up losing an associate, I can work one of the offices. You know, the other doctors, if they need to help out, they can work at another office too. So it works out okay.
How geographically close are your 4 offices? Like you said, you could go work at one. Are they all within reasonable driving distance?
I mean, they're anywhere between an hour, well, from 45 minutes away to an hour and a half away.
Okay.
But, you know, some of them are closer to each other than others. So.
Okay. So with 4 offices, are you able to take advantage of like economies of scale and like consolidate marketing budget, supply budget, like get deals with the labs, deals with the supply companies?
Well, I have my own denture lab.
I had a feeling you did. I hadn't asked yet.
Yeah, so, you know, we make our own dentures just because it makes it much easier. And as for crown and bridge and stuff like that, we have some pretty decent deals. I mean, we use Trident Labs out of California a lot, and, you know, they've given us pretty good discounts. I mean, we use, once again, this, just because we're rural offices doesn't mean we don't have technology. We have Trios in the office. We have, not Trios, oh my gosh, I'm drunk. No, it's Trios. I'm sorry. We have Trios, we have phone beams in the offices. So, you know, we use the latest technologies that we can. But, you know, our bread and butter is dentures.
So when you're doing dentures, like in a rural area, how are you like staffing a lab or training lab techs? Like, how do you hire someone who knows how to make a denture in a lab? Because I wouldn't know how to make a denture.
I mean, honestly, you find one and you guard them from everybody. because I don't know, I can't teach somebody how to make a denture. I know what I want in a denture, and you know, I know like teeth setup and stuff, but to actually make the denture, finish it, do all that stuff, they are very hard to find now, and you know, it's very hard. If you have to find one or replace one, good luck.
So hold on to that person.
Yeah, we are. I mean, it's almost you almost want to hold on to them as tightly as like a dentist. To be honest with you, because they're very hard to find. We are trying to integrate into the digital dentistry workflow with 3D printing and milling and whatnot. I've talked to a couple big people in the industry. We've tried it in our office at one point, but the workflow that was given to us, I didn't like it. Like the dentures broke, it just wasn't what I wanted. I tell people, you know, if you want to do digital dentures and stuff like that, and it's a fun thing on the side of your business to do, like, hey, I got this denture coming in, let me try to do this, right? But when you have 20 sets of dentures going out a month, you don't have that luxury of, well, let's just try this out, because if you end up having to remake 20 sets of dentures per location per month, you buried yourself in a big hole to get out of. So that's kind of been, you know, one of the things that I wish we could move forward on faster, but, you know, we'll see what the future has in store.
Yeah. So something with when you're evaluating like a site, like, okay, I think we might want to put a new practice here. What type of team do you have helping you evaluate if it's the right time and the right place for a new practice? What type of team is supporting you? And I guess what do you guys look for in deciding if this is going to be a good spot?
Honestly, it's always just been me that's done it. I mean, you know, I've been doing this for a while, so I kind of know what the general area is supposed to look like. Or, you know, for us, because we do have such a shortage of dentists in Missouri, it's just look on the map. Look on the map and see, all right, well, where are the dentists at? Where aren't they? is there a dentist in this county? You know, well, what's the demographics for this county?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what's the break? You know, and from there, I'll just go and visit that area, drive around, and just kind of find a location that I feel like works.
Mm-hmm.
And so far, that's been how we've done it every single time.
Yep.
So, yeah.
And then you just approach the landlord and then negotiate a deal from there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, really, what I found, and this might be really good information for people that are wanting to open up their own practice, is look at old healthcare facilities.
Mm-hmm.
One of my offices that I have used to be an audiology
Mm-hmm.
office, right? So it was already built out with separate rooms, and it had a waiting room. They just happened to move out, and I was looking in that area, and anytime I would see a for lease sign, I would pick up the phone, I'd call the landlord, like, hey, do you have anything available? Yeah. Well, what was it before? You know? And they would be like, well, one time it was an existing dental office. The dentist got in trouble. That whole organization got in trouble, and that office sat there vacant for 4 years. And I was just driving through, and I was like, that's a pretty good location. And I called the building, which happens to be the dental office. You could take over the lease at $1,750 a month for a 3,000 square foot building, and put some chairs in and get working.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, you know. So I think that's something that if you're wanting to do it yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Don't be afraid to put the legwork in. I talk to other dentists that are like, yeah, I'm looking at starting a practice. I hired this company to go look for spots for me, and then I hired this company to go do this for me. And it's just negotiate my deal for me and whatnot. And a lot of times, I don't think things are cookie cutter. I don't think there's a cookbook to do every single thing in the world.
Yep.
I think a lot of times you have to know what you want to do and where you want to go, and do it yourself.
Yep.
And save yourself some money.
That's what I tell a lot of people that I work with too. I mean, even for my practice, like I did my research, I narrowed it down to like some general areas where I thought I would want to go, and then I just drove the areas, and I looked at what was for lease, what was for sale, and there wasn't really anything that I wanted. But through driving the areas, I saw this abandoned building, and there's like trash bags on the window. There's no for sale sign, but no one's using that spot. So I got in contact with the owner, made an offer, ended up buying it. That's where my practice is today, just from driving, you know, and doing the legwork, like you said. Just drive it, look around.
Yeah, I mean, really, that's the best way to go and do it. And even when you're negotiating your leases, unless you're dealing with a company that you are going to sublease through,
Mm-hmm.
because there's a lot of companies that will do that, they'll go to the landlord and be like, hey, you're offering $15 a square foot, we're going to pay you $12 a square foot, and we're going to pay you 10 years up front. And then they come back to you and rent it to you for $13.50. You know, you're thinking, oh man, these guys are awesome. Well, they made a ton of money off this deal.
Mm-hmm.
But you could have gone up to your landlord and maybe gotten even some TI put into there if you had just approached them yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, it's just you just have to, you know, grab the bull by the horn and, you know, do it.
Yeah, I like it. Well, Arash, I like to keep these around 30 minutes, and we're coming up right on the 30-minute mark. So I do want to say thank you for giving all of our listeners an insight to rural dentistry. I think that there was a lot of great material in this. I'm going to be posting this video shortly, and any questions that people have, post them below, and I'm sure that Arash will chime in and give you an answer.
Great.
All right. Really appreciate the time. Thanks for sitting down with me.
Hey, no worries, man. Be safe.
Awesome. You too.